Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Christensen. I'm jacked. I'm jacked to the tits!
Dang it, I love that quote. I was like, oh.
I had to take that because I watched it twice and I watched that. It's so funny. He's my favorite character in this movie. Okay, we're joined by Jordan Christensen.
That's my cap. No, that's my cap. F you, F you, F you, F you.
We've got Cameron Mickle.
Truth is like poetry, and most people freaking hate poetry.
And we've got first-time comer on the podcast, Scott Sutherland.
I do not have a quote ready, so just pretend I said something funny.
No, you're good.
We'll just laugh. I don't know. I thought we were all laughing. Okay. I committed. You guys didn't come in. Okay. We're reviewing The Big Short. Came out in 2015. Directed by Adam McKay. Writers were Charles Randolph. He did the screenplay, and Adam McKay also involved. This movie stars, holy cow, take a deep breath, guys. It's got Ryan Gosling, Reddy Eisenford, Casey Groves, Charlie Talbert, Harold Jarvis, Maria Fangos, Christian Bale, Hunter Burke, Bernard Hawk, Shauna Rappold, Brandon Stacy, Aidan Flowers, Peter Epstein. Wow, it lists all the actors that I don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
why are you reading that?
It's got Steve Carell. It's got Brad Pitt. It's got, I already mentioned Ryan Gosling. It's got, jeez, how many other folks it's got? Anyway, it's got everybody. Everyone's in this movie.
You're forgetting someone? Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie for 5 seconds,
Isn't it got
Cameron's
Selena Gomez
wife.
or whatever
My
her name
wife.
is? What's that music?
Cameron's wife.
Yeah, it's got a lot of famous
That
people.
pop artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, freak.
Selena Gomez, I think.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez. It's got the chef, whatever his name is. He's a chef. I don't
I
remember.
wish they had Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, they didn't have Gordon Ramsay. But
Cameron, it's got your boy from that show you love. What's the girl show? The New Girl?
Oh, New Girl?
Schmitty.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Schmitty
Schmidt,
and
yeah.
the other tool, the guy from Game Night. What's his name?
Yeah,
He's
I
so
love him.
funny. Oh my gosh, yeah. I thought it was so funny. Their roles in that movie, the douchey
Hilarious.
realtors. Oh my gosh, they were so bad. Okay, so here we go. Let's do this. So we're gonna go around and say what was it like watching this movie for the first time and what was it like rewatching it for the podcast. Let's start with you, Jordan.
First time, shoot. I don't remember when it was. I just remember thinking that I was so confused, didn't understand anything. It was the same, just like going through my economics class. It was the worst experience of my life. I hated it. Miserable. It's a whole new language. Seriously, this is what this movie is. And I know they have all these people explaining it, but when they say have Margot Robbie explain it in a bathtub, you're not thinking what she's talking about. You're just thinking, why the crap am I watching her talk about it in a bathtub? Like, I get it to make...
I'm just thinking, what is my wife doing in a tub?
Cameron. I just, they have all these... they're explaining all these different ways, but I'm like, how does this relate? I'm very confused. Now watching it, I don't know if my brain just finally connected the dots, but I feel like I have a better understanding. I mean, I know he does. He even says, do you understand it? Are you getting bored? Are you getting confused? Feeling like an idiot? He's like, yeah, that's what they're trying to make you do. They want to make you think that they're the only people in the world that can do it. And it's so true. They use all these words and things that... I just remember in my economics class thinking I didn't understand anything because it is a whole new language. But goodness gracious, I feel like it's more prevalent today than ever. And we'll get into everything going on in the world right now, but it's such a fun film. I just think Adam McKay is a master at comedy. I mean, I was laughing
Dude, you're talking about the guy
so
that
hard.
made Anchorman, which is the most quotable movie of all time.
And Step Brothers.
Step Brothers, great. I mean, and again, it has the other guys, which I freaking love. I mean, everything with Will Ferrell, honestly, he did it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's surprising that a comedian director would want to make a film like this. What gravitated him toward it. It's very interesting. So, how about you, Cameron? What was it like watching it the first time and rewatching it for the pod?
So I actually didn't get a chance to rewatch it for the pod, but rewatching it for the first time, it was because Jordan was kind of trying to prepare me for the movie or whatever. He's like, it's kind of slow. It's like there's a lot of things going on or whatever.
He's like, oh, but Margot Robbie takes a bubble bath, and you're like, say no more. I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. His biggest selling point is like, don't worry, Margot Robbie's in this movie. I'm like, okay, I'm there. And so,
and Brad Pitt, your boy Brad.
And Brad Pitt. And
and they're both in it for like 10 seconds.
okay, but Ryan Gosling is just really growing on me as an actor. Seeing him in Drive, La La Land, and also this, he's just a great actor. And then also he's in Blade Runner 2049, which I need to check out as well. But watching it for the just for the first time, I just really enjoyed I love movies that are very like artistic in the way they explain things and aren't just like, because there's this very special way you can explain things without it being like super cheesy or like kind of cringy, and they just do a really great job of just storytelling and also keeping you engaged with just, I just love the overall kind of plot line of like the entrepreneur and like genius side of it.
Very cool. How about you, Scott? Let's go to you. What was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast?
Well, I've only seen it once, and it made me really glad that I watched like a 20-minute YouTube video about like what happened in 2008 because I would have had no clue what was going on if I hadn't. But it was just like fascinating because I've been involved in GameStop and just like recently got into the stock market, and it's just like it's so crazy to watch like how people react to something that should be like totally obvious, like if you actually took a look at the numbers, but people just like keep doing the same thing because it's part of the system, and it's just like fascinating to see like how people react to it and who gets screwed and who doesn't.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so I watched this movie the first time, I mean, it must have been right around when it came out, because I know it was like a runner-up in either Best Actor, Best Screenplay, or Best Film, I think, of the year, and that's probably why I watched it. I was just curious to watch it, and I'll be honest, I was like in high school when the economic crash of 2008 happened, so I didn't really grasp anything that was going on at the time, and our father was still working. He never experienced any job loss or anything like that.
Well, but he was living in a house, Ty. He was renting.
We were all renting in a home of a guy that did it. So, I mean, it did impact me, which is really weird.
He even showed up, and he just like this movie.
Doesn't pay their mortgage?
Yeah.
Turns out where we lived, he did.
He even showed up, Ty, and he started taking stuff, and he was like,
took all the TV out of the house and everything. Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah, it's really weird. So, it's just one of those things where, you know, like it happened and maybe you're too young to know about it. So yeah, I found it interesting years later where I find out that we were really impacted by this.
Well, do you remember, Ty, did Dad, were you there when Dad said, like, he's like, we might go into another Great Depression? I remember that day because he's like, there's certain moments in history that you're going to live through. Just like when we, you know, the experience of 9/11, I can never forget that. Just there's moments in history, and I couldn't forget that day because he's like, we might go through a Great Depression. It's just wild.
Yeah, our dad basically sat us down and he's just like, shiz is getting really real out there, man.
Shiz just hit the fan.
Our landlord is 3 months behind his mortgage, and I'm getting really worried. We're all like,
we're gonna be living on the
but
streets.
have a good day at school, son. Try not to think about that, Dad. You're like, you're just like reeling right now.
Well, I had the same thought after I watched it. I was like, wait, I don't remember anything like in 2008. And apparently my dad, who's a little bit into conspiracy theories, he like read about it like right at the beginning of it. And like my parents sold their house like right before it happened. And I was like, you know, sometimes being a conspiracy theorist pays off. So
yeah.
unless you actually get kidnapped and they tape your eyes open.
So yeah, let's go around and say two of our favorite things. So like we were all kind of, and obviously this movie couldn't be more timely. We wanted to review it just short of, if you haven't lived under a rock, there's been a lot of crazy talk about this funny subreddit group that pulled their money together and bought tons of shares and stock into GameStop, AMC movie theaters, and BlackBerry, and they completely rose the price of the stock and the worth of the stock, and everyone that was shorting these companies that were, by all accounts, on their way out the door, just revitalized them and stole millions and even billions of dollars from these hedge fund guys. Because their anticipation was that they would drop. So, like I said, I'm not even going to bother to try to explain how to short a stock and what it's like, but just
we can get Marco Robbie to explain it for you.
What's really remarkable about this movie, so one of the things that I noticed, like I said, I was impacted by this, and then we've been once again impacted by this recent development. I do my platforming, or I do all my stocks and my cryptocurrencies on Robinhood, and I thought it was pretty despicable what they did, blocking some people from buying. In fact, I went on, this stock is no longer supported on Robinhood. It's like, what the like, what's going on here? Like, this is a free open trading platform, right? Like, I was under the impression that it was, so they kind of lost my respect, so I got to find some new platform. So, open to suggestions. I've heard Coinbase is pretty good. Maybe I'll look into using them.
I like Coinbase.
So anyway, I was just really disappointed and disgusted by Robinhood because I really like their platform, but they literally turned from Robinhood to Sheriff of Nottingham overnight. So that's very nice. So anyway, let's go around and say two of our favorite things from this film. Why don't you start us off, Cameron?
Ooh. I don't know, I think one of my favorite things, I just really love the cameos. Like, they were
We all know which cameo you like.
Okay, but I loved all the cameos. Some of them might have been like a little kind of over the top, but I think it was like a really good kind of like breather, like pace wise, kind of for the film, because it's just a lot of information they're kind of just throwing at you, and so kind of giving you that break where you can kind of just laugh and then have someone like dumb it down for you. It kind of just like, even if it didn't help you actually a lot, just kind of that break of like a lot of information just kind of made you feel like, okay, I can do this. And then my second favorite thing is, I don't know, I love, me and Ty have kind of talked about this. One of my really good friends, Justin, is also a really big buff into like films about like capitalism and stuff like that. And this movie just gave me super mad War Dogs vibes. And so I just kind of love, not only it had that, but then it also had a genius side to it with Christian Bale. And I love movies with geniuses and just like seeing how their brains work and stuff like that and how they interact with people. Because the way they interact with people is always so weird and like so unnatural. And so he's like just like blasting his music in his room. Just reminds me of me. Just
It's
like
a really great haircut. Did you do it yourself? No. Oh.
Doesn't he remind you of Dad rocking out on his drums upstairs?
Oh,
he used to do that all the
yeah.
time.
And that reminds me of me getting out of the shower as well. I'm just like blasting music, and then like I find out like one of my roommates has been trying to like get my attention for like 3 minutes. I'm like, oh, sorry.
The apartment's on fire, Cameron. Oh.
Oh, my bad. So yeah, just both those things.
It's okay. I'm soaked in water. I'll be fine.
And that's just one of the things I just absolutely love about that genre of movies. It's just really entertaining, kind of the capitalist side, because it's just amazing like what you can do if you're like smart enough and you know the right people and have the connections to just like get ahead and just like be smart and like get ahead of the curve. It's really impressive.
All right, Scott, how about you? Two of your favorite things from this film?
Okay, one of them was that scene when Mark Baum like finally decides to invest in these shorts, and he tells, like, I don't remember his name, the bald guy who's like really cynical or whatever, and he calls Ryan Gosling and he's like, we're gonna do it, but like, how are you screwing us? Like, you're screwing us. How are you doing it? And it's
numbers
like,
guy.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, someone always gets screwed in the stock market. There's always a loser to pay for a winner, and that was actually my other favorite part. Like at the end, when Christian Bale like sends out the emails to all of his clients, and like for days, like their balance has been like going to the negative millions, and then everyone makes like $497 million, and he's just like, you're welcome, because like it only matters who comes out with the money. Like it only matters looking back. So I like those scenes a lot.
That's great. It's like playing Risk with your family or Monopoly. It only comes at others' expense. Not everyone lands on free parking, and you know, people have to pay you money, and it's at their expense, and possibly
even the money in the middle, even the money in the middle comes from taxes and like landing on bad like platforms or whatever.
Cameron, don't even get me started talking about Monopoly. If Ryan's listening to this, he'd sit there for like we would deal out all the properties, and then you would like trade with people, and he'd be like, I'll trade you like this railroad for like your 3 oranges and one other, $250 in cash. We're like, what is going on here? That is not fair.
That's
like,
thievery. Yeah.
Not. And he's we have no trade then. We have no trade.
Yeah, I'm
like,
holding on to this one railroad, so you can't have so it's just like $50 per. You're like, you're literally AIDS.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, I'm not giving you this one. Yeah, I'd be like, no way. That's so funny. So I'll go with my two favorite things. I really enjoyed watching this again, because I watched it years ago, and I always was under the impression that if I could go back in time, I could go back and then game the stock market. But it's like, you have to understand what they did here had never been done before. One, a housing economy, a collapse like this, of this magnitude, had never happened before. But also everyone's value in their homes completely depleted too. So that was one thing. What was really cool about Christian Bale's character is he's like, I want to short the housing market. And he's like, by what means? Like, this didn't exist. It's not like you can go to the bank and say, I'm going to gamble that the entire housing market is going to collapse. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, and so he goes to the bank and he goes, I'd like to offer up this amount of money and I'll have to pay premiums. And they were happy to write up the contract because they're like,
love
who's
their
going to default on their
reactions.
mortgage?
Like, the newer people are always like, we shouldn't do this. Dude's crazy. And then like the more experienced lawyers
we're
like,
happy to take
we'll
your
help
money.
you. We'll help you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we'll it's like free money. Like, we'll take his money.
Yeah, I had a few thoughts too. Like, one thing I enjoyed was Christian Bale's character, that he collects the mugs of all the people that he went and did the shorts with. I almost thought it was to prove that he was there in case they like tried to nullify, because it turns out most of them took a huge hit. In fact, he goes, I want to make sure that my assets are going to be guaranteed in the event that the bank becomes insolvent or you lenders become insolvent. And they're like, oh, you're worried about us? Like, and it's like, yeah, because you're gonna be paying out like 10 to 1, 20 to 1 returns on this investment, $1.3 billion that he ended up.
And sure enough, they
staking.
tried to, man. They were dodging his calls.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, he's like, it freaks me. And they goes, we might need to like talk about this agreement because you need to understand, like, this is just, it's like, no, you need to understand. Like, this guy saw exactly what would happen, and he predicted it, and you guys are now, like, trying to back out of your deal. It's so crazy. Like, anyway, so I loved that this, like I said, I'm like, oh, if I could go back in time, and I would have invested money in this, or predicted this, or I could have, it's like, it wouldn't have done me any good. Like, this was the craziest thing where you literally had people, like, so much corruption down the line and so many people asleep at the wheel that the entire housing market crashed because you had people owning homes that had no business owning homes. And you had people that weren't even living in their homes. Like, it's so bonkers that this could ever even happen. Like, it just seems such like a foreign thing. Like, guys, I bought a home last year and it was the most complicated jumping through hoops thing I've ever had to do. I felt like a stupid dolphin doing tricks for fish. Like, it was so bad. It was like, we need proof of an employment 3 days before you move. Like, it's like nothing changed, but again, due to COVID on top of it, but it's like on top of all the regulation, on top of all this crap that they put everyone through in the 2008. Like, back before 2008, you could get a subprime loan for nothing. You didn't have to prove that you had employment or income.
I have 5 houses.
I have 5 houses.
How much money do you
condo.
make a year?
I know.
We just give them ninja loans.
I would say as far as autobiographical movies go, or like biographical movies go, I really enjoyed it because I don't actually typically like these movies or interested in them, but it just seemed like a really good time to rewatch this movie, and I was thoroughly enjoyed it. So, Jordan, how about you? 2 of your favorite things?
I love movies based on true stories.
And Ryan Gosling is my favorite character. I just had to throw him in there. He's my favorite from this movie. But
yeah, that was something I was going to get into too. But I love movies that are based on true stories. So this one now I absolutely love, now that I feel like I can kind of grasp the idea and concept of everything going on. And
So that's why you love Wolf of Snow Hollow? Sorry.
They do dumb it down enough for me to understand it, which is nice. And I just love the humor's amazing. It lands really well. There's so many little things about this that I think work. I mean, obviously the performances of everybody is amazing. I just there's so many good moments. I can't even point to just one. I'm thinking of one right now. Is the scene where just after the head guy that keeps funneling. I'm gonna sound like an idiot trying to understand and explain this stuff, but that one CEO that he's like, how much do you think I'm worth? Like that scene and he's talking to Steve Carell.
Tell me how much I'm worth, and you tell me how much you're worth. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's talking to Steve Carell, and I love when it freeze frames, and he's got that dumb look on his face, and I love freeze frames at moments like that. Martin Scorsese does it a lot in his films. War Dogs did it. There's so much humor to be had, and then the narrator, he is so funny. I mean, Ty's already mentioned it. Everything he says, Ryan Gosling, and he's like, it's dog crap wrapped in cat crap. Like, I just love how he describes and relates everything, and then his assistant is so funny, and he's just like,
F&A, Jared, shut up, freak out,
shut up. And then I love how he's like, look at him. He's like, what? What? He's look at his eyes. Well, that's racist. I just
let me give you a hint. His name is Yang.
Let me give you a hint.
He's the best in the world. He won the math competition in China, and then later he's like, he actually got second. Who's gonna check that?
He goes, actually, I speak perfectly good English. He thinks that it's more authentic, and I got second place in that math conference. I thought that was so great.
It's so good. It's like The Office. It's great. He kind of does this like mockumentary style of filmmaking. It's really good. And he bounces between really good suspension and really good humor. Like all of a sudden, that moment where they're like, oh yeah, and they're like singing and dancing, and he's like, stop. And he's like, do you know every time the market moves 1%, somebody kills himself? He's like, how's that for numbers? And thousands of people kill themselves every % of unemployment. There's increase in suicides. Oh, not one, sorry. Yeah, right. It's...
But percentage, there's lots and hundreds of thousands of people that commit suicide.
And that was really sad. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, like it gave me chills because I can't imagine just when that happened, how many lives it just totally destroyed. And all the people sitting at the top, didn't affect them at all. So, and they gave themselves bonuses. That made me sick to my stomach. Ugh. Anyways, this movie is so good.
Yeah, get promoted or get a bonus. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And
Jordan, I got a bounce.
Pretty great. But
all right.
Hey, Cameron, thanks for being on. Take it easy. Do you
definitely recommend this movie. 100%.
Yeah. Peace, Cameron. I was going to get into nitpicks. Did you guys have any nitpicks about this movie or things that you didn't care for?
No.
One of them, I would say, when Steve Carell first comes on the scene and he's like that jerk that comes into the meeting, it's not really an AA meeting, but it's like a grief group meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like Steve Carell was playing a character.
At first, yeah.
It annoyed me at first, but watching it the second time, it didn't annoy me as much because you see the whole arc of his character. But at the very beginning, I was kind of like, one, I despise people that walk into meetings with their phone or like they hijack a meeting or they talk on their phone when they get up somewhere. But I do like that Ryan Gosling's character, Jared, when he mentions, he goes, see what I had to deal with? He actually said that. He said, it's like, how? It's like, what guarantee can you promise that it won't go up any further or it won't go down any further?
Yeah, from 5%.
90%. He goes, 0% guarantee that it will not go because it will go. It will drop. And he's like, oh, okay, they try to ignore him. So yeah, that's the kind of guy he was, and it makes sense and so Steve Carell did a good job. But for some reason, just seeing Steve Carell coming from like something like The Office into this, into all of his other films, it's just such a weird, very different. Even watching him in like Foxcatcher, I was like, no, he could do serious roles like he did this one. And when he's talking to his wife, even, I love my job. I love my job. You hate your job. I love my job. I love my job. He has to keep saying it. And he's like, yeah, you're happy when you're miserable. He's like, yeah, I'm happy when I'm unhappy. I love that. So yeah, like I said, it bothered me at first, but then that was just a nitpick at the very beginning. But then you slowly grow to like him a lot and kind of get a feel for him. But I just feel like that some reason that opening scene was just kind of strange. Something was off, but maybe it's just seeing Steve Carell in that capacity.
I had kind of the same thing because I haven't seen a lot of movies with him in it, and this is I think the first serious role I've actually seen him play, and so it took me a while to actually take him seriously. But I think he did a great job.
Yeah, and it's almost to his detriment because it's hard to envision him as anyone but Michael Scott. But to his credit, I mean, he does a great job, and I know he's won an Oscar or at least he was nominated for an Oscar for Foxcatcher. I don't know if he won. He might have won. But I even think this is a more dramatic role, or I enjoyed this role more than Foxcatcher. So, but anyway, I think Channing Tatum was robbed, if anything. I think he had the harder part in that movie. But that's just me. Then again, Steve Carell had to lose a bunch of weight and wear a bunch of prosthetics. So, that's acting right there. Okay, let's not get into film politics because I can go all day. Okay, so... any other nitpicks that you guys thought of or things that you didn't like? I would almost argue that sometimes I didn't really get the pictures that they were showing, or sometimes they would show slideshows of things. I enjoyed it. Like, they were kind of like showing a slideshow of like certain people affected, but sometimes I'm so discombobulated. I'm like, who is this person? Should I care?
No. So from what I understood watching it this time is I loved because it was showing like, with everything going on, there was a lot of times showing it showed a picture of a and people what they were actually focusing on, there were celebrities,
the
all
culture,
this the
or
culture
distractions of the day.
What we were focused on had nothing to do with all this stuff that was actually important going on that could put us into a depression. And
That's fair.
And so I just thought it was so interesting to show the kind of, the contrast between the two. So
Right. Yeah. Blink and you miss it, because a lot of people were very privy to this, but everyone else was distracted by, the celebrities and the popular music videos at the time. Like,
which is hilarious, because the way he explains it to us is through celebrities, through, essentially giving us all those things that he flashed on the screen. It just
right. And think about like the acting or the actors they had for this movie. Like, your movie has to start Steve Carell, Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling, and
Christian Bale
more, just to get you to watch this movie about the housing market collapse. Is pretty remarkable, right? I mean, like, you see the poster and you're just like, wow, like Christian Bale, Steve Carell, all these people, like, yeah, I'll go see that movie. Like, even if it is a biography, to talk about a really depressing time in most people's lives that were drastically impacted. Millions of people were impacted by this. So very interesting.
It is, because I feel like it's really hard to make a movie like that's like actually accessible to people. Because I watched another one like right afterwards called Margin Call. It was pretty good, but it wasn't nearly as engaging, and even though it didn't go into as much depth about like the economics. So yeah, it is funny. It's kind of ironic how they did it, but I think they did a great job of taking like a topic and a story like that and making it at least somewhat accessible and engaging.
Well, it's exactly like you said too. They strayed from the economics. I feel like the only way to make it more interesting is to stay away from that.
And so one thing I liked, like they mentioned it once, where the two younger investors that went into JP Morgan Chase, they said, okay, we didn't really find Christian Bale's document on shorting the housing market in the lobby of a bank that literally just refused us. He goes, he heard it from a friend of a friend, and I read it online somewhere. So I thought it was funny that they took liberties to make it more dramatic telling. I did like that the subtle 4-dimensional or the breaking of the fourth wall, where they tell the camera it didn't really happen this way, but for the story's sake.
I would never hang out at a bar like this.
Yeah, I would never hang out with these friends. All my friends, they're all models. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What was so great was that there was this movie. I think another reason why I think it works really well is because they do a good job with the noir, where there's bomb after bomb that's being dropped, where you learn a truth about some industry or about what's going on, and you're like, you in your bubble, you might think okay, all I'm doing is approving people for loans that they have no right of paying back, but that doesn't reflect badly on me. I get an awesome commission and I get to live my life happily. Then you have the person at the rating office that's like, look, if we don't turn out enough good ratings for the people above us, we're gonna take a pay, and then it's gonna reflect badly on us. So we're gonna just so everyone just keeps shoveling the crap and kicking it further down the road, eventually to where it led to what we know as the great housing market collapse in 2008. So it's pretty wild that it's this was so avoidable, but the idea that they were just shoveling people into homes that and selling them these terrible mortgages, to people that didn't understand anything about finance, and even immigrants. They mentioned there was a lot of immigrants that bought these loans, subprime loans, which were really bad. I mean, interest that they would likely never pay off.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah.
And most of them ended up being homeless again. So it's just it's horrible.
They'd foreclose and they couldn't afford them, and it's pretty wild, because again, the idea that we were impacted by it, Jordan, is kind of funny, because it's I never would have guessed. It's I was paying my rent and this guy wasn't even paying his mortgage. It's I guess we're moving. We can't live here anymore because the bank
we did move.
Out.
We moved.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. We had to move. We couldn't remain there. And it's you see the scene where, and so again, I think what really works for rewatchability is that this movie plays like a noir, where you have the detective work, cat and mouse kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to investigate, is this really going on? What's happening here? You had the soothsayers, you had the prophet's warning of what was to come, and then you had the people doing the grunt work, okay, let's go investigate. They go down south and they find out in Florida there's a bunch of abandoned homes, and everyone that lives in a home is eager to sell because they're not working, and it's wow, everyone seems really eager to sell. It's yeah, none of them are at work right now. There's just a little bit of a lull, they kept saying, it's just a little bit of a slum, it's these are homeless people all moving into these homes and they'll never pay them off. It's so crazy. And so what's the cost of a home? They'll let anyone live in a home. It's so crazy. And then the corruption of giving the AAA ratings on on terrible FICO scores and people that had no income. It's
Well,
crazy.
there's so many parts of this that just make me like sick to my stomach. Like the scene where they meet with that lady and the lady that just had LASIK surgery or something, and then she's like, "Oh well, if I don't give them the approval for that by the bank, then they'll just go to the person down the street." And then she's like, "I have a boss," and he's like, "What? Like, are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like
No,
it's
yeah.
it's so
we'll lose their
disgusting.
business. They'll find someone else, and it's like, okay.
They'll find somebody that will, and
Yeah,
it's like,
okay,
jeez.
you're putting a Band-Aid over like a gaping wound, like you're going to cause more harm down the road. And like I said, everyone was just kicking and shoveling the shiz farther down the road.
Well, then it's just
crazy.
like jaw dropping when like stuff does start to collapse and like all these foreclosures are happening and everyone's just like pretending like it's not happening, and they're just like ignoring the situation because they can until they can't anymore, and so they just do until they can't anymore.
Right, and I think that's what really works for this movie too. So not a nitpick at all, but just I'm surprised at how rewatchable it is because it almost plays out like a detective work. Because even though even from history books or whatever, like having lived through it yourself, you knew what happened, but you want to watch the train wreck and you're like, how did this happen? Like I almost don't, because like I know what some people did, but it's kind of nice that they give you a brief overview of like, this is exactly how it happened. Like look what was happening down in Florida. Like it's like, it's unreal when you see it like play out, because you're like, oh, like this wasn't just like, oh, some people didn't pay their mortgage and they lost their home. It's like this was like, you find out that the lady at the strip club, she like owned 5 homes, right? Because he goes, wait, you're talking about 2 loans on 1 house, right? And she's like, no, I own 5 and a condo. It's like, oh my gosh, like, and then that's in the moment where he calls. He goes, oh, it's real. The collapse is real. Call Jared. Let him know we want to buy. It's like it's collapsing. It's so great. So. Again, plays like a noir, and I love when you have those moments where you're just like, it's kind of like jaw-dropping, where you're like, I can't believe someone would be that corrupt, or that would be that negligent, or would be that dismissive. So that was really good.
Well, what's interesting is, and I don't know how much of like a parallel it actually is, but like it reminds me a lot of what Robin Hood did, and like people are still doing stuff like that, and like a lot of the times like we just don't even see it, I'm sure, but like every now and then people just do things because they can, because they have like the money or the power to, and like a lot of the times there's like no repercussions, or there isn't for a long time, where the ball gets passed to someone else, and it's just kind of mind-blowing, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, and even the people that had this happen, they got bailed out in the end, so no punishment, no repercussions, everything's fine, we all just move on. And that's what kind of freaks me out about like what just happened with GameStop. It's like, so Robinhood sell their data. They don't take any commissions of the interest that you earn or the gains that you earn from stocks, right? So Robinhood is a free platform, but what they do is they sell buying and selling data to people above them, right? That's how Robinhood makes their money. So they sell data to bigger, higher ups, right? And these people that they're beholden to, they're the ones that lost billions of dollars in this short, and they were like, shut it down. I'm not going to lose any more money over this. I'll take a lawsuit. You need to shut down trading, or at least buying, AMC, BlackBerry, and GameStop. And it's just crazy that you have these people that are that powerful enough to be like, it's not available to the general public anymore. It's like,
Right.
I wish I was that powerful, right? I mean, it sounds great. Like, oh, I'm losing money? No more. I'm going to require that all of you lesser people, all you peons, all you common beggars and peasants, to not participate in any more gains. It just seems so crazy to me, because if you never believed in the deep state or the powerful or the 1% of the 1%, just look at what happened. And the people that were on this subreddit group in Discord, these powerful people had Discord shut them down and say it was for hate speech. And they made a disclaimer, this is not in relation to the AMC, to the stock increase. It's
brother.
Like, okay, the fact that you had to make the disclaimer, they obviously weren't using hate speech.
I had like 3 desperate emails from Rob Hood, like, it really wasn't because of that, I promise. Like,
I
take
did
me
too.
back.
Yeah. They're like, we just want you to know, we want everyone to have a great experience on here. It's like, but we just don't want you making that much money. Not from the people that are beholden to us. We need to look out for their interests before yours. But thank you for using the app. We're going to continue to sell and your data. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Yeah. Get bent, Robinhood. Get bent, man.
Well, and the other crazy thing about that was that, like the big funds like that, they'd rather take like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit than have to pay up. And like for them, I mean, it's kind of like financially it makes sense, but it's like so crazy that they have that option first of all, and that like that amount of money that is like insane for most people. It's just like, oh yeah, that's no big deal. We'll take that over like.
We'll take a lawsuit. We're not taking any more money on, we're not losing any more money on AMC, BlackBerry, and
Right,
GameStop. It's like,
yeah.
holy cow. I just love this subreddit group, though, to their credit, after they did this buy-up inflation of the stock. This subreddit group, some of them are genuinely, like, trolls, because they're like, they'll post things and they'll memify it. So they'll be like, oh, I just invested like $10,000 in a dying stock. Like, oh, like
Yeah.
It's funny to them. Like, these guys are trolls, and they ended up making all this money because so it's public information of how much these hedge fund guys are shorting.
Yeah.
That's public information. So they knew how much they had to lose in these other in GameStop, AMC, and BlackBerry. And so it was so funny when they all targeted GameStop and the other two, AMC and GameStop, AMC, and
BlackBerry.
and what was the other one?
BlackBerry. Yeah.
BlackBerry. Because they inflated the cost, they were all buying. I mean, like, let's be real. GameStop is on its way out, right? I mean, like, it's a brick and mortar video game store. You buy your video games through your video game console. You don't even need to go to the store anymore. What are they making? Like, off of ring pops? Like, what do they sell? They sell candy and concessions and video games and video game consoles. And yeah, you're right. Every 7 years, you might go in, and buy the new video game console, or just have it delivered right to your door from Amazon.
What was the meme, Scott, you found about your experience going to GameStop? What was that?
Yeah, it was like it was back when the shares were worth $300, and it was like, I have one GameStop share that's worth $300. GameStop offer $16.
It's so true, though.
Yes. Yeah, it's clearly not worth that much, but it was just so great to see the kind of the David and Goliath story. No one deserves to lose money or gain money. It's just you play it according to the system and it's legal. What's so upsetting is these really powerful people, they're like now calling for regulation. Like, this can't happen again. Like, we can't lose this amount of money again. It's like you have people so powerful and high up that they're the ones that are setting the rules, and they're ensuring that they keep their power and their wealth. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Well, also, there were hedge funds, like, obviously we hurt a lot of hedge funds quite a bit, but there were hedge funds that made a lot of money off of it too. So even though we bled some people like a lot, like it probably didn't really take away from like the 1% or whatever, because other hedge funds, when they see an opportunity like that,
yeah,
they just benefit from it as well.
Well, it was like this movie at the very end when he's like, who was I betting against? And he's like, you're betting against your own company.
Yeah.
Yeah, his own company, the bank, they had bought and invested in the housing market, right? They were the ones that bought the shares. What did they call it? The CDO or whatever it was, the CDs. I can't remember what they called it, but it was a bet of a bet.
Yeah.
And they it's so crazy too, and that's why again Christian Bale was smart to be like, I want to guarantee that even if your company becomes insolvent, like, you need to be able to front me this money. In the end, the government just bailed everyone out, so all the taxpayers, we all paid for it. All the honest, hardworking taxpayers, we all bailed everyone out for everyone's stupidity. Everyone was asleep at the wheel. All the corruption, we paid for it. We fit the bill. We're the ones that paid for the ultimate price. And it's kind of crazy. I used to believe that we live in a democracy. We really live in a time of oligarchs that run the big tech companies. And not to get too political, but then, and then the politicians that are in their pockets, right? I mean, the teachers unions, you have the Actors Guild, all of them that are in the pockets.
Well, what's scary is this is our foundation of what America is standing on.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
yeah,
it's scary.
It's a Jenga house, and he
Yeah.
drops out all the B's, the double B's, and it's all comes crashing down. So so this movie was really relevant to talk about, and it's not the same people that did this, but it's really interesting to see people that can see patterns in a market and can predict what's going to happen, and it's really worrisome to think like, man, if I only had a time machine, I'd go back. But in the end, it's like only the big boys at the big boy tables can do anything about these things. They're the only ones that are privileged to trade that amount of money. They're the only ones privileged to have first say in what happens.
Yeah,
how much money they're willing to lose.
Wasn't that one license like over $1 billion just to be able to like get the license and trade like at that big boy table?
So the ISDA basically is to be at this kid's table in order to trade the amount of money that they were talking about, which is remarkable because these guys took like 160,000 or 110,000 and made like over 300 million, which is like incredible. But they still lacked like over $1 billion or whatever it was. They had to have a certain amount of capital. It's like, holy cow. And these guys, 300 million, you could live off of interest of 300 million, mind you.
Oh,
but maybe that's in total assets. But if that's what they turned over, living out of someone's garage, they really could be sitting well. But the idea that they still had their sights set higher, I'm like, man, those guys are going to go off and do incredible things. But
well, that's the crazy thing, is that like for all the like the little guys on Reddit that made like $100,000 maybe, like that's like so much money, but like $1 million to like the hedge funds, it's like, oops, I dropped that, like whatever.
Yeah. And that was great to The Big Short when Ryan Gosling, when he's like, how are you screwing us? I really like the idea that he goes, well, listen, you're gonna get the sundae, you're gonna get the nuts and everything, and he's like, I just get the sprinkles, and I get the cherry on top, because he needed to make a deal with his bank to prove his worth to his job. So he got the $50 million deal from them. So he's really, because he needed to bring at least 20 million to the table, so they bought 50 million shares. It's like, or 50 million at stake to Short. And I just think it's really interesting that everyone was, even the people that heard about it. Like, I loved that Jared, his interaction with it was disliking the other banker that just made a really big deal. It was almost out of jealousy that he investigated further, because he goes, it's either must be a scam and that guy's an idiot, or this is really going to happen. And so I love when he goes, there's a lot of interest, and he goes, which is why you're here talking to us, but because you called the wrong number. And he goes, okay, are you guys just here to laugh at me? Like, is that what this is? You guys just gonna laugh me at the door? Like no. That's just the way he is. Like, let's hear your spiel. I thought that was really good. Like,
another part that made me laugh really hard was when they were deciding after they lost tons of money, and because he's like, everything's fraudulent, and all of a sudden, and they're deciding what to do, and he's like, we got to invest more money, and then all the guys are like yelling hysterically at Ryan Gosling. And he's like, I think I threw out my back, cursing. So funny.
Yeah, that was scary too. That everything seemed to be kept afloat. Like, even at the very beginning when they mentioned, he goes, wow, that's weird. He goes, the housing market's dropped 3 point, or it wasn't the housing market. It was like a score for the strength of the housing market. It would like drop 3 points just this year. And he goes, wow, that's pretty crazy. And all they needed to get to was 15% insolvency in order for them to fail. And it's like, they're already at like 8%, I think it was. And it's like, I mean, when you hear those things, it's almost like, wow, like, how did not more people anticipate that or predict that? But again, enough people probably did see the signs, but a lot of people were still distracted or just happy to be in a home. Like they said, the realtors, they were the ones saying, like, people, they'll tell you that you're telling them that they're getting a home, and they'll sign on the dotted line, and that's unfortunate that you have a lot of lower class or even, uneducated folk that are receiving these deals that were preyed upon. They were taken advantage of, and that's always a shame, because it's like the American dream, right? To own your own property, own your own land. And so the fact that they would take advantage of that is really despicable.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of feel like we're in a similar situation to like when they start like seeing all this like fraud and like people are just pretending like nothing's happening. Like, there are a lot of people on Reddit that think that this thing with GameStop is not over. And, like, I don't have that much invested in it. I don't really have much to lose. And so I'm like, sure, I'll just, like, keep writing it out. And so it's, like, it's either going to be, like, well, they were just, like, total idiots and, like, didn't see what was happening and they just lost money for no reason. Or maybe in, like, a month or two, like, all of their due diligence and math will, like, pay off and you might actually see something crazy happen. But, like, how do you know that in the moment? Like, how do you know if things are, like, what everyone says they are, or if, like, people are just, like, completely ignoring or covering up what's going on and pretending like everything's normal.
Right. And the fact that they already manipulated buying and selling of 3 different stocks, and it's like, how much more do they manipulate? Like we have no idea. Like, it's supposedly illegal to artificially not inflate the stock, but to sell. Like if you're a guy that's shorting, you can't go out and say like, oh, they're not doing so well, and then everyone starts selling, and then boom, you're the guy that sells the short because you just scared everyone and convinced them that the stock was doing badly or poorly. But you're just crying wolf, and then everyone else takes their money because they're scared, and then you get to collect the reward. It's unreal. It's like, I can't believe you get to game it that way. It's just seems so. I mean, it's not just shady, but it's just so scuzzy. It's like, it's incredible that that gets to be your job. You get to tell us what everything is worth and value. What everything is valued at. It's a very strange thing. So, It will be interesting. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, Scott. I actually believe you. I think that this is the beginning of a very different game that's being played, and well played by these subreddit guys, because in the end, they might even be some of the people like us. I mean, there might be our age. You know, they're millennials or even Gen Zers that are probably out there that are like, you know what, we saw our parents get affected by 2008. Like, the idea that they looked at what these guys were shorting, and they're like, this will be a really easy way for us to game it. And it was really funny to see some of the memes afterwards. They were just like, hold the line. You know, they're showing like memes from Lord of the Rings where they're like, everybody don't sell your stock yet. But, you know, no one wants to be left holding the stock, because in the end, GameStop is on its way out the door. Make no mistake, folks. Like, now, unless we artificially buy and everyone buys the stock again and brings up the price, it's like GameStop itself is a dying business. But the idea that if you had enough guys come in and just rush buy something, the idea that you could inflate the price of something kind of artificially, it's just so interesting.
Well, what's interesting about that is, like, I think there's a very good chance that you're like totally right, but there are like the reason why people started looking at GameStop and like realized about the short interest in the first place was because they actually thought that there were good odds that it could like become like a long-term like solid company that could like transition and stuff like that. And so like
interesting.
Yeah, and I mean I don't know that much about GameStop, but it's so interesting to see the people that started that just like that really have a very different opinion of a company than everyone else. But now, and like when it started, there were less than like 2 million people on the Reddit on Wall Street Bets, and now there's like 8 million. And so what's interesting to me is like a lot of them obviously, especially what you see on there, they restricted posting so that only older accounts could. But a lot of what you see are like the old people that like have done all their research and like actually know what they're doing. But then you have like 6 million new people that are just like, oh, I read about this on the internet and it's a meme, and like screw those big hedge funds. And like how many of them actually know what they're doing and could actually like take a loss? And I personally think that there's a lot of them that might become the real losers in this situation, which is kind of sad because, once again, the big market guys can just manipulate whatever they want, and they always come out on top.
Yeah, they might be the last guy holding the line, right? And that's the idea. Like, as everyone buys, the commodity goes up, right? So the last one standing, once it gets up to the top, then you start selling once you've made your giant profit, right? I mean, I heard about this guy with 100,000. He had over $48 million made.
Yeah, deep effing value. He's the one that started all of it.
Right. Yeah, and he gets out. You know,
and now he's back down to like 12 million, but he bought more and he's holding still, and so yeah, it's crazy.
It'll be interesting to see, right? I mean, like how many people. And that's what's interesting too, is like these groups, like, right, so the people in power want to call for regulation. See, I always say, like, just follow the money trail, right? So it's like the people clamoring, like they're trying to explain how this could be a bad thing. They're like, it's no joke. If you're a hedge fund manager, you could lose potentially an infinite amount of money if something continues to grow in wealth or you know, it grows in value. And because when you invest into the stock market, you could only lose and go to zero. You could never own money. But if you short something, the losses are potentially forever, right? They're infinity, right? I mean, if something just continued to grow in value and never stopped, you could owe an infinite amount of money. But that, again, it's like that's how much money these guys have. Like that they play this game all day. That's all they do. They count the numbers. They short the companies that they believe are going out based on all their research and trends of the economy and everything else. It's just so crazy. See, and like that's why I'm not a hedge fund manager. But in the end, it's like I can't believe that they're calling for regulation. It's like, I mean, it's always going to come back and bite them in the butt. But the idea that they're so greedy and holding on to their money, it's like you played the game, you got gamed, and now you're like, government, come help us out. It reminds me of what happened in 2008. It's like these banks are too big to fail, so they just get bailouts. It's like, so who pays the price? The taxpayer. I mean, we're gonna freaking have so much debt. Like, we can't just keep paying for all this. Like, I can't keep paying for all this. I can barely feed myself. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it's so true because, like, after like the past week of just like blatant market manipulation, now the SEC is investigating Reddit. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that was the obvious choice for us.
Oh man, it's corrupt. Wow,
Brother.
We definitely strayed from this movie, but The Big Short, man. I don't know what to say. I'd say
well, that's why we picked this movie
film.
is because of everything going on in the world right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Hardcore recommend it.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. I definitely recommend this film. Do you guys have any quotes you want to throw out from the movie?
I think we said most of them.
I think we said most of them throughout, but yeah, Jared's phone call that he has with him in the bathroom, and he's like, "No, get out, get out." He's like telling everybody else to leave. He's like, he needs to be in there alone. I love that. Like, he's freaking out, and the idea that they were continuing to mask that there was no problem, even when everyone was in a free fall, that kind of freaks me out. Where everyone's like, everything's fine, and everyone's like telling you like there's nothing wrong, and like it's on fire behind you, you know.
Yeah, I'm selling you fire insurance on a house that's already on fire. And then I love he's like, yes, there's some shady crap going down, but it's fueled by stupidity. Everything Ryan Gosling said was so funny.
Yeah, he's the greatest for sure. Real quick, we end every podcast, Scott, by saying movies that we've seen lately and movies that we're looking forward to seeing. Do you have any movies that you've seen lately?
Let's see. Margin Call. I watched Nightcrawler with Jordan the other day. That was really good.
Such a great movie, dude. Talk about media manipulation, right?
Right.
Coupled with the corruption, it's like, oh, no wonder no one can get a straight answer or know anything about the truth about COVID or anything, right?
It made
it's
me
crazy.
so distrustful this past week. I'm like, I don't believe anything Jordan says.
Yeah, now I'm reeling with conspiracy theories, man. You're like, I don't know who to trust. I can't trust the media. I can't trust the big hedge fund guys. I can't trust the powerful. I can't trust the politicians.
Yeah. And then because of some of the memes I've seen on Reddit, I want to watch the 300 and Gladiator.
Yeah, it'd be good to watch those. There's plenty of memes that come from those, that's for sure. That's awesome.
But thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
Scott, thanks for being on, man. Take it easy.
Hey, see you later.
Stay safe out there and wear the tinfoil hat, all right?
Will do. Peace out.
Bye.
Peace. So I watched Speed last night, starring Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. Watched for the first time. Oh, and it has Jeff Daniels, believe it or not. Yeah, Speed was good. It was an action suspense film. It was good. I liked how many hugs they were given. Like, it was a very, like, problem, solve, problem. Everyone rejoices.
Wait,
Next crisis.
With the guy from Matrix, what's his name?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, the Speed.
Yeah, I watched Speed for the first time. I was so excited to see it.
You recognize the old lady from Donnie Darko? She just cracks me up when she shows up.
Yeah, she's the lady from... Wait. You mean the one that fell off the bus, right?
Yeah.
Squashed? Yeah. Yeah, I love that character that's like, don't get off the bus, and she's like, I have to, and then she dies. It's like, oh gosh. What is it about that character in every movie where it's like, you tried to like be like, oh, I can't die here, and then they end up dying. I don't know why, that just happens in every movie.
It's so fun.
The freaking villain in that movie, like, I could tell now, like, that guy was clearly not there for like most of the production. He was like, what's his name, Dennis? Is it Dennis Hopper or Hooper?
No, Dennis something, yeah.
Oh, no, what's his name? I'll think of his name. Yeah, Howard Payne, right? The villain? Yeah, Dennis Hopper. Yeah. His character, like, he's playing like this ridiculous over-the-top villain, and I feel like he was never there on set because he was always like reacting to things, and it was always just him alone. So they must have had him for like 2 days, and they did all the scenes, and then they're like, okay, we'll just keep him apart, and he'll be on the phone reacting to what you're saying. It's just so over the top. It's so cheesy. But, yeah, it's good. I don't think it needs a remake, but I'm almost like, you could honestly make another movie like this property.
It's literally after Die Hard came out. It's Die Hard on a bus.
Yeah, but even then, it's like I said, it was really clever how they would have a crisis and they would solve it, and then they would all like give each other hugs. It was like really heartwarming in that regard, where like total strangers were like, yeah, we work together, like we're stopping terrorism. It's just like, I love the idea of like there's camaraderie with all these people living through a really tough crisis, and everyone kind of like gets over the fact that they're riding around with a bomb on their bus. It's just kind of funny. Like everyone just kind of gets used to it after a while. Maybe it's fatigue, you know? It's kind of like everyone feels from COVID. They're like, yeah, I'm scared of COVID, but I'd really like to get back to my life now. Well, you don't care about old people. Like, I'm tired of wearing this mask. Well, just put it on your mask and stop questioning. It's like, I got it. Thank you. Anyway, I just find that so funny. So Speed, yeah, what a joyride. And Jeff Daniels' character, it's really funny to see him in a movie. And the idea, I still don't get Keanu Reeves' policy where you shoot the hostage. I don't understand that, where he's like A terrorist has a hostage by the throat and is backing up to a plane. What do? Shoot the hostage. Take him out of the equation. I never understood
Yeah, I
that.
never.
I still don't get it to this day, where if he was joking or if he was saying, like, it's okay to shoot a hostage in that situation. And then he's like, what about the people in the elevator? And he goes, oh, we take him out of the equation. I get that he used the same language, but he's like, I just hope you don't mean shoot them. It's like, right, Keanu? You mean not to shoot him, right? Like, who knows? Like, I don't know what his deal is. Anyway,
that was so
it was really funny, too, that they had this line where he goes, I've heard that relationships built on really stressful, impactful, traumatizing events never last, right? Relationships founded on traumatizing events don't last. And he goes, and Sandra Bullock's like, well, I guess we'll just have to make it about the then. And then Keanu Reeves is like, okay. It's so stupid. Oh my gosh, dude. Speed. Didn't age that well, I feel like, but it was still a lot of fun.
It was still fun.
I love Keanu
It's just one of those great B movies because there's a lot to laugh at, I feel like.
Yes. It is so over the top and so ridiculous. And the chief of police or whatever, I always think of him as the guy that turned the world to Skynet in Terminator. That's all I can remember him from. So it's fun to see him as a good cop, you know? And Jeff Daniels, you know? Acting is something not Dumb and Dumber. Like, that's the only thing I can think of in my favorite Martian.
Steve Jobs, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point,
He was great in that.
Was he great in that?
I liked him.
I'm trying to remember if I liked his character in that movie or not. I liked Kate Winslet and
it's amazing.
Michael Fassbender.
So I finally watched Hold the Dark because you said it was like, interesting, but
yes, very interesting.
Yeah, that's the word I'll use for it.
Cool shootout, by the way. That was
oh my gosh, dude, that shootout was insane. I don't know, the villain just kind of disgusted me the whole time. I just felt so gross every time I saw him. I was just like, I don't know. I felt like I needed to take a shower. He was creepy and gross. Then I saw 30 Minutes or Less, which is hilarious. It's on Netflix right now. I just love anything Danny McBride is in. I just love that man. I think he's freaking hilarious. Anyways, but apparently it was like based on a true story or something. Ending, obviously they kind of revised a bit to make it more Hollywoodish. It just felt very Hollywood at the end. But I'm kind of curious to see how it actually ended, because two guys robbing a bank because the guy has a bomb strapped to his chest. I don't know. It seems like it has a depressing ending, so I'm kind of curious to look into that more.
Oh, man.
But it's really funny. It's got Aziz Ansari, Jesse Eisenberg. Pretty funny movie.
Oh, I did want to see that movie.
It's on Netflix right now. Dude, check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to see that one, because I remember really wanting to see it.
It's funny. I love Danny McBride. He's a perfect psychopathic villain. And then I saw The Little Things in theaters, which apparently it's streaming on HBO right now. It's also really fun. Just Jared Leto's performance, unbelievable. So funny. Dude, he plays the best creeper, dude. We might need to do it on the podcast, but just how ridiculous it is. It's so...
No, Jared Leto, man, the actor of a generation.
Dude, I want to talk about all Jared Leto's movies, dude. What a wild character. Just so crazy. Dude, in this movie, seriously, Ty, he is the best part of it. Oh, boy. And then I also saw A Tale of Two Sisters. Whoa. I don't even know what to say about this movie. Korean film. Same guy that did I Saw the Devil. Wild film. I had to watch a bunch of YouTube videos to explain it because I didn't understand anything that just happened.
Oh, and that was the other... I watched half of A Taxi Driver, not Taxi Driver.
Oh, I want to watch that. Is it any good?
It's really good. It's got the same head actor from Parasite.
Yeah.
The Korean dude. He's like a renowned actor. But yeah, I watched the first half. I was going to finish that. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Okay. I'm looking forward to watching that too.
It's a really good movie thus far. I enjoy it. And he's great.
I also want to watch Last of Mohicans. I started it, fell asleep. I need to finish it. So.
Yeah, I started that one. Fell asleep too.
Same.
Don't think I'll ever finish it. I don't even recognize... That's Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Yeah. Of course you don't recognize him. He's a freaking chameleon.
He's also an abusive man, so...
So, as is every man, apparently.
No, that guy is psychotic. Daniel Day-Lewis, he's almost just as bad as Jared Leto.
Yeah, method acting.
When I'm acting, I don't get out of character. I continue to abuse people and treat them as dog shits. It's like, jeez, you could be nice to people. I love what that I wish I could remember which British actor it was, but he was like, yeah, I go, and when they say action, then I start acting, and then at the end of the day, I go home as myself. You do it, this whole method acting thing, it's like...
It's funny.
Maybe you're just a in real life, and you just want an excuse like, oh, I was just playing an a-hole in the role I was playing. It's like, no, you really are just an a-hole, and you're just using the cover of your act or your character in your dumb movie.
Well, it's how Jim Carrey wanted to get noticed in the Man on the Moon. He lost himself in that character.
Another weird story where it's like, what
that was a fun documentary on Netflix. Yeah,
it was a good documentary though, because I never saw that movie, and I didn't know anything about that actor. What's his name, the comedian guy.
Yeah,
I was surprised with that one. I liked watching the making of it, knowing nothing about it.
I
was like,
I like that.
Did this really happen? That's what I was thinking. I was like, am I being punked? Like, I never heard about this movie, and I never heard about this.
It's because we grew up on all the comedies of Jim Carrey.
Yeah. It was just really weird to watch this, and you're like, geez, Jim Carrey, man.
Yeah.
Because now when I see him and he looks like he's going crazy, because he is, it's like, it's not as surprising. It's like when I watch Conspiracy Theory, and I'm like, and people were surprised that Mel Gibson was ever crazy. Like, watch Conspiracy Theory, and you're like, oh, he was always kind of crazy. He was always kind of mad, He's flying. He's flying. No, you just hit him with your wheelchair and knocked him out a window. That's flying, I guess. Like, I have no idea what's going on, dude. When he's, like, shuffling with his feet, ricketing back and forth. Oh my gosh. I'm going to explain something that makes no sense. In Speed, watching the movie Speed, there's a scene where Jeff Daniels and the other guy are running toward a helicopter. I don't even know if it's those two guys, but they're running toward a helicopter, and he has bags in his hands, and his arms are flailing, and it made me laugh so hard. Like, frantic running with really big bags, and he's just like... It made me laugh. Like, just imagine a rag doll running at a helicopter full speed. That's the image I saw, and it made me laugh out loud. So check it out. It's so funny. Anyway, write in your reviews.
A running scene that makes me laugh really hard is Jonah Hill in Babysitter, dude. I was laughing so fetching hard because clearly he's like, run, and he clearly couldn't run, so they sped up the camera speed instead.
Oh, no.
So it was like a Three Stooges moment where, they like all of a sudden speed up really quick and run off the scene. It's the funniest crap I've ever seen in my life.
I know, Three Stooges, they'd be like, speed it up, and they'd run out of there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad. Poor Jonah, man. Oh, I feel bad for him. He's a lot funnier, and he's a much better actor when he's big and fat.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny you say that, because he was skinny in Maniac, and apparently you like his acting.
No, see, that's a unique, that's a good example. But see, I almost feel like there's something to be said about that story writing. That was a really good story.
Boo.
Watch Moneyball. It's great.
Yes.
He's
oh my
fat.
gosh.
Watch Wolf of Wall Street.
Please say we want to do Moneyball in this pod.
But and Jump Street, he's very funny, but I wouldn't say he's a good actor. He's just something's off about that guy.
So
when
funny.
He's thin, something seems off about Jonah Hill. Some people are just better fat, I, being a plus size person myself, I totally relate to that. I'm not myself when I'm thin. I'm cranky and I'm cocky, and when I'm fat, I'm humble and I'm funny. So, everybody, write in your emails, futromovies@gmail.com. Leave us a review, 5 stars, please, and tell us about your friends. Share us on your social media apps.
FNA.
Shut up, Jared. Shut the freak up. Yeah, this was a movie, The Big Short. We didn't really review it. We went on lots of tangents, but I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. Take it easy, all right?
Bye.
Peace.